Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to one of our virtual Lunch and Learns. My name is Phil Cambers, for those of you who don't know me, and I'm the Commercial Director here at Trustack. Although you can't see everybody in the virtual room, I can, and I can see that there's a lot of people joining us for this session, which I think that speaks volumes about the relevance of unified communications in the not just the world we live in now, but it's always been relevant, but I think it's even more relevant to have a really good unified communications platform to help you run your business. So yeah, thanks for joining us. Hopefully at some point in the not too distant future, we'll be able to bring these Lunch and Learns back in-house again. I am actually in the office today, but as you may or may not be able to see, there is nobody in here. Other than Paul Watson, who's in the other meeting room, a few rooms down. But yeah, hopefully we'll get these Lunch and Learns back to what they were at some point. Meet up and have a bit of lunch as well. So thanks for taking some time out of your busy day, because I know that lunch times are quite precious. It's probably the only part of the day where you get a little bit of respite from the constant Teams and Zoom and whatever else is going on in your world. But just as a general sort of update on Trustack, we continue to grow. Business is good with us, and over the last 12 months, we've continued to add more things into our portfolio, one of which is actually what we're talking about today, and it's our new unified comms solution that we're bringing to market. When we bring things to market, it's very much a team effort. So often it can start with one of the members of the board of directors identifying that we've got a need for something within our customer base, and then it kind of progresses from there. And for this one, it was actually Paul Watson who was very instrumental in the initial selection of the product that we use. Incidentally, the product is almost irrelevant to you because we've white labeled it and it's all badged up as Trustack, but we still needed to go out and find a product in the first place that we could bring to you guys and gals. So I'm going to pass over to Paul in a second, who will just talk a little bit more about that selection process and around the whole sort of criteria that was in his mind when we picked this product, because we do have another on-premise product that we resell in the form of Mitel, and that's going to stay. But we didn't have a product that would integrate with Teams and was purely born in the cloud. So Paul, can I pass it over to you now just to expand on that, and then shortly after Paul's given his explanation, then he's going to pass over to Tom Hassan, who's our lead unified comms consultant. A lot of experience. I won't steal any of his thunder. Tom will explain a little bit more about the solution in detail, get into the weeds of it, and then we can have some questions at the end, and we'll close it off. I think we'll probably finish a little bit earlier than 1:30. We ran through this a couple of days ago, and it was a little bit quicker than what we thought. So sit back, enjoy it. Hopefully you'll learn something. That the clues in the title, these are supposed to be a learning experience as well. So I'll pass you over to Paul. Thank you.
Thanks, Phil. Hi, everybody. I'm Paul Watson. I'm the Managing Director here at Trustack. And just want to reiterate what Phil said. First of all, thank you all for taking the time to attend the session. We're pretty excited to tell you about the new telephony platform. And as some of you might know, Trustack have been selling telephony solutions for the last 10 years. Historically, as Phil's already mentioned, that's been on-premise solutions based on Mitel Connect. And just to reiterate again what Phil said, that solution isn't disappearing. We'll maintain that solution for people who want on-premise telephony systems. This will be an addition. So historically, most of our customers have wanted on-premise solutions, but that's changed over the last 12 months. There's been a significant mind shift where the majority of customers now are asking for hosted telephony systems. And I think there's probably a few major drivers over the last 12 to 18 months which has brought that about, which Tom will cover in his slides, but not least coronavirus and agile working, Teams adoption, which Phil's already mentioned. So we're seeing a mind shift towards cloud-based telephony. So we wanted to bring a solution to market which not only provides our customers with the features and the functionality they're asking with now, but that can grow with you, that isn't limited in terms of feature set, availability, reliability. And as with everything that we bring to market, we compared a lot of best of breed products. We think we've got a mature solution that we're talking to you about today, which is called Trustack Voice. And it's always been Trustack's ethos as well that if we bring a product to market, if it's good enough to talk to our customers and sell to our customers, then we should use that in-house to run our business on, which is exactly what we've done with Trustack Voice. We've rolled this system out across our business. We use it day in, day out. That is our one and only telephony system. And we've been running it for the last 9 to 12 months without any issue. The benefit to you, obviously, is we use this day in, day out now. We know the product inside out. Of course, we go through the normal training, technical staff, support, sales, etc. But in addition to the technical training, every member of staff uses this day in, day out. So if it's a pre-sales engagement, a sales call, support, deployment, whatever it may be, we have very deep understanding of the solution. So I don't want to steal too much of Tom's thunder either, and you'll see in his presentation that we do have a single platform. There's multiple versions, which are called Trustack Voice, Voice Plus, Unified Communications. I won't go into very much detail on each of the versions because Tom will cover a lot of that in his presentation. But I just wanted to highlight a couple of things that I think is important for you to understand. The reason we have the additions is we can provide you with the ability to mix and match those additions. So you might have office-based users who want full Teams integration. You might have lobby phones which just want basic voice functionality. You may have remote workers who want soft clients on mobile phones. You don't have to buy into a particular edition across the entire estate. You can mix and match, so provide the services that you want for your users. I should say I said basic voice functionality before. I probably shouldn't have used the word basic. The feature set isn't reduced whatsoever across the editions. The voice-only system is just a handset with voice, but fully features functionality-wise, which Tom will cover on his slides. But we can mix and match those versions, so we can fit this solution to your requirements. There's no loss in functionality, regardless of the edition, as I've said before. One other difference in our offering is we bundle in some inclusive minutes in our offering. Now, a lot of competitors do that as well, but where we've tried to do something different is the number of minutes that we bundle doesn't change across the editions. You get the same number of minutes. You don't have to pay extra for those bundles. It doesn't. The price of the solution doesn't start creeping up because you've got the bundles. But we bundle a number of inclusive minutes for you to phone UK, local, national, mobile numbers. What we've tried to do a little bit different is a lot of the other solutions on the market who provide inclusive minutes include them per seat, per user, which doesn't really work very well. You might have high usage users who burn through their minutes, so you incur call charges for them for the rest of the month, and you might have low usage users who will never use the bundle minutes. What we do a bit differently is we bundle the minutes across the organization, so it's company wide. So if you've got high usage users and some low usage users, it's bundled across those users. The idea being that you benefit as much as possible from that inclusive minute bundle. You know, one person could take 90% of those minutes and the other one could take 10%. It doesn't really matter. It's inclusive across the business. One of the final thing really that I wanted to say was this presentation will cover predominantly telephony services. Tom will touch on some advanced features, but we've built the solution out so that it can grow, and you can bolt on advanced features to our service as you need them. So if there's anything that's outside of default telephony, if it's something like call recording or power dialers or wall boards or even fully featured omni-channel contact center, we can provide all of those on this platform. So if there's anything vaguely voice related that you might need now or in the future, please get in touch with sales or your account manager. So I've probably said enough for now. I do hope you enjoy the presentation. I'll hand over to Tom, who will explain the solution in far more detail. And there may be some time at the end for some questions. So over to you, Tom. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our Lunch and Learn. My name's Tom Hassan. I'm the telephony and UC consultant for Trustack. I'm just going to talk a bit about my history, what I've done, where I've been. So I completed my HND back in 1985, where I completed a HND in electrical and electronic engineering, specializing in communications, networks, and computer engineering in my final year. I was fortunate enough to start my career a couple of months later after I graduated, and that's when my love for telecoms has actually started. I worked for a company called GC Reliance. They were a subsidiary of GC themselves, and the rest is history. Throughout my career, I've been involved in every aspect of technical customer support and also product training as well. My last past 17 years has been solely involved in IP telephony, voice over IP, and UC. I've been fortunate enough to have visited many countries across the world with my previous positions. I've been to the majority of countries in Europe. I've been to the UAE, South Africa, Singapore, Malaysia, Hong Kong, and USA to provide support, implementation, and to conduct technical training courses for our partners in those countries. Recently, I've been to the UAE again, to Singapore and Australia with Trustack, supporting one of our global customers. I'm obsessive about customer support and customer service, and strongly believe that you must be obsessive to be successful in a support role. The next slide relates to the evolution of business telephony over the years, and that's funny enough, that's run in parallel with my career as well. But that's enough about me. Let's now talk about the Trustack hosted telephony platform and introduce that platform to you. Over the past 2 to 3 decades, business telephony has evolved to such a state that it has no resemblance to the telephone systems that are around now. However, a larger majority of the functions, features, and facilities that we use on the telephone systems today have their origins in the PABX, the legacy PABX, or the PABX as they're fondly known today. In the early days, the PBX consisted of a central control unit, the CCU, and connected both to the PSTN and to the telephones. Each telephone was connected back to the CCU via a dedicated twisted cable. All the intelligence was held within the CCU itself. The phones were mere dumb terminals and had no intelligence whatsoever. Moves and changes meant exactly that. If you wanted to have a new telephone in a new location, you had to run a brand new cable to that location. I mentioned PSTN. PSTN stands for Public Switch Telephone Network, and it's a term that collectively encompasses the analog ISDN2, ISDN30 lines, the public telephone exchange, and also the public telephone operator, such as British Telecom. Now, the world's first public telephone or automatic public telephone exchange was invented by a gentleman called Almond Brown Strowger, based in the USA. Surprisingly enough, he wasn't an engineer, he was an undertaker. And between the years of 1870 and 1880, he found out that his only competitor in the town that he was in had his wife working in the local Indiana manual telephone exchange. And when a caller rang into the exchange and asked to speak to Strowger, she was transferring them to her husband's business instead. Strowger complained, nothing came of it. So he set about designing his own automated exchange based on electromagnets. The new exchange that he designed basically would take away the need of local callers ringing into the exchange, the public exchange, and asked to be transferred to another person or another business. He patented his invention in 1891, and then in 1982, he actually installed his first exchange in LaPorte, Indiana. The last exchange, public exchange, that was based on Strowger's design was retired in 2002. Analog lines have been present in the UK since 1876. The next step in the evolution of the business telephony was the introduction of IP-enabled telephone systems, where the CCU was IP-enabled, which would allow an engineer to configure the telephone system via a browser or via a dedicated application using the CCU's IP address. The British invention, network alchemy system, was the world's first IP-enabled telephone system, which was bought by a company called SDX, a UK company called SDX, for £1. Later on, SDX was bought out by Lucent Avaya for £124 million. The network alchemy system continued to evolve and now is known as the Avaya IP Office system. Following on from the IP-enabled CCU, the next step on the evolutionary ladder was the connection of both the CCU and the telephones to the customer's local area network. By this time, the telephones had evolved. They were IP-enabled and more intelligent. Moves and changes now it just involved unplugging the phone and plugging them onto a new port on the customer's local area network. With the introduction of IP telephony, new terminology sprung up, such as voice over IP, VoIP, VoIP protocols such as H323, SIP, MGCP skinny, SIP trunks, and ITSPs. Out of those protocols, SIP is now the de facto protocol for voice over IP communications. ITSPs have now taken the place of the local public telephone exchange and stand for Internet Telephony Service Provider. So your system would now connect to a SIP trunk, which is handled by the ITSP and using the SIP protocol. The IP-enabled PBXs or IPBXs now support most of the functionality that was available 30 years ago, that started up with the legacy PBXs from 30 years ago. But they came into their own by providing users a desktop or a mobile client, integration with email systems, and providing user presence. Further up the ladder, in the evolution ladder, we have now evolved to such a state that we no longer need to have any control unit or switching or controlling equipment located at the customer's premises. PBX functionalities provided by a cloud-based hosted telephone system sitting in a data center. Users can have a desk phone, a desktop, or a mobile client, or even all working seamlessly together at the same time. In the picture you can see on the top right corner, the hosted telephone system, it has two customers, a customer A and a customer B. Customer B is a single location user and they are all using desk phones, whereas customer A has two locations, site A and site B, which is a remote branch office. And they also have a handful of agile or remote workers. Those workers can either use their mobile phone and have a soft phone application installed on it, or they could use their desktop. Or even if they wanted to, they could have a desk phone at their home location as well. So the cloud telephony adoption drivers, well, Paul mentioned it, and I think Phil mentioned it as well. COVID-19 pandemic has basically progressed and accelerated the actual adoption of cloud telephony. Microsoft Teams have seen they've seen their active user numbers reach 115 million back in October 2020. They are experiencing around 5 billion meeting minutes per day, and voice integration has become a demand. Agile working is here to stay. Recent surveys have actually shown that 72% of UK employees want to continue to work from home for the foreseeable future. For this reason, future-focused businesses are now adding UCAS, Unified Communications, as a service to their hybrid working strategies. Another major factor is the planned shutdown of the PSTN. I mentioned earlier on that the analog lines have been in the UK since 1876. BT, Openreach have actually seen the infrastructure is out, have basically admitted that this infrastructure is out of date and something needs to be done. So in December 2025, PSTN lines, analog ISDN 2 and ISDN 30, ADSL lines, the lines that connect to the cabinet, FTTC cabinet fiber to the cabinet lines, will all cease to be supported and will stop working. This is not only for domestic users, this is also true for businesses as well. So future-focused businesses are already planning for the big PSTN switch-off that will take place in 2025. So what is Trustack hosted telephony? Paul mentioned it. It is basically a hosted telephony platform, and we have three different offerings. TSV is basically for users that want to use only a desk phone, but with that desk phone, they get all of the standard system features with it. TSV Plus, Trustack Voice Plus, is for users that want to use the mobile client or the desktop clients. Again, which will basically support all of the standard features. Users that have TSV Plus can also optionally have a desk phone on their desk if they wish to do so. And finally, we have Trustack Unified Communication, TSUC. This is for users that want to use Teams as their telephony client, again, integrated with all of our telephony standard telephone system features. Again, optional. Desk phone is optional if they wish to have a desk phone. So what is Trustack further? So Trustack hosted telephony is a feature-rich hosted voice over IP telephony solution. It's, as Paul mentioned, it provides an alternative to our on-premise offering of the Mitel Connect telephone system. So we have a hosted telephone solution, and we also have an on-premise telephone solution. Our telephony platform is serviced by 3 data centers that provide redundancy, cover, and for hardware, network connectivity issues, and power outages. There is a built-in DRS feature where all incoming calls can all be routed to different mobile or landline numbers simultaneously. Our uptime statistics have consistently been between 99.5 and 100% for the last 2 years. So Trustack Voice, just to reiterate, it's for customers who want to have a feature-rich desk phone. Trustack Voice Plus is for customers who want to have a feature-rich desktop or mobile application with a built-in softphone. Trustack UC is for customers who want to have a feature-rich telephony system working seamlessly with Teams, which utilizes the Teams application as the telephony client that also has a built-in softphone as well. The beauty of it is, I think we mentioned this before, that customers are not limited to one or the other. They can have a mix and match of the different offerings to suit their users' requirements. Our desk phones. All our desk phones come with a built-in switch port. So if your network ports are you don't have sufficient numbers of network ports, you can actually run your laptop or your desktop PC from the switch port on the phone. The TS100 has a 100 megabit interface, whereas all the other phones in our range have a gigabit interface. All our handsets come with context-sensitive soft keys that are underneath the display. So these soft keys offer the best option for the user based on the call state at the time. We have peripherals that go with our handsets. There's a whole host of different headsets we can supply. We can supply Bluetooth headsets. We can supply corded. We can supply wireless. We've also looked at the markets, and we've brought in some other products that we supply with our Trustack UC application. The Quando Busy Light is one of those. This is where the Busy Light will actually seamlessly work with your Teams interface, and it will change its color based upon your Teams user availability status. It also has a mini speaker. We found that some of our customers have opted to have a handset, USB handset, rather than a headset, so they don't hear the ringing coming in, and they'll complain about they can't hear the call ringing, so they can't answer the call. So the Quando Busy Light not only changes the status of the user, but its color based on the user status, it also has a built-in mini speaker that will provide ringing tone as well. The Busy Light, for example, will glow green when the user is available. It will flash blue when it's ringing. It will go red when you are busy, set to busy, glow purple when you're set to do not disturb, and basically glow yellow when you're set to be right back or appear away. The ATA is a device which is a SIP to analog converter and allows you to connect your analog devices that you currently have, such as faxes, if you still use them, modems, and PDQ machines. So you connect your analog device to one port on the system, on the actual device. The other port then registers on our system as a SIP extension. We have door entry systems. There are 5 different models that we support. They basically range from audio only to audio and video. And also we have one model that is audio video and allows keypad or card entry as well. If you have a TS400 handset on your system, if you have a video entry system, you can actually see the video of the person at your door on the actual handset itself. Mobex is our native mobile extension. It's available on Android and iOS. There is also a desktop version which is browser based, which means that it's not dependent on any operating system. You can run it on Linux, you can run it on Windows, and you run it on Macs. It's native, it's feature rich, and it's continually being developed. It is not reliant on Microsoft, hence it doesn't need any additional Microsoft licensing requirements. There's a list of the features there, you can see. And then very soon, as I did say, it was being developed and improved all the time. We are soon to introduce chat or instant messaging and video to the clients as well. So let's talk about Teams. Yes, Teams is supported. It's one of the requirements. So depending on what you have, if you have as an organization use Office 365 Basic, Standard or Premium, you require a common area phone license. If, however, you use you have Enterprise E1, E3 or comparable licenses, you then need just the phone system license. If, however, you've got E5 or A5 or something comparable to those, you don't need any license, as the actual phone license is included in that bundle. It provides a single application for all different types of collaboration. So as you're all aware of Teams, you can use it for your meetings, you can use it for your video calls, you can use it for your voice calls. And basically, it provides one interface for all of those different collaborations. The beauty of it is it provides a familiar Teams interface for the telephony feature. So up to now, from our personal experience, any customer that's gone for Teams integration on our platform hasn't actually required any training, because adding voice to the actual application it just works the same way. So it's a very familiar interface and with minimal sort of training required. The Teams provide a soft phone functionality, so the users, if they don't want to, do not have to have a physical phone running in conjunction. They can use the soft phone feature built into Teams itself. And it's supported, and it's supported on Mac, Windows, Linux, Android, and iOS. We talked about advanced solutions earlier in the introduction. We also have a omni-channel call center, which is capable of supporting different interactions such as voice, email, web, SMS, and social media. We can also set up universal queues, which means that we can provide those different interaction types or media types, different priorities relative to each other, and route them to a single group with multi-skilled agents. So if an agent hasn't got any skills associated with SMS, when an incoming SMS interaction is received, that agent will be omitted from the actual queue. We have flexible routing. So once we've set our group up with the multi-skilled agents in, we can set the group up to be linear, cyclic, longest idle, or skills-based. So once the call comes in, the system will have a look at the group and the agents available in there. If an agent hasn't got SMS, they're not even considered for routing the call to. But if there are 5 or 6 different agents, the system will look at the skills-based levels, if they're skills-based routing, and route it to the agent that has the highest skill. One nice feature of the system is that you could also route it to the last contacted agent. So it provides some continuity for the calling customer. There's a conversation management feature where all of the customer's communications with the organization across any media is displayed in a single thread. So if the agent takes a few seconds out, they could read the last few entries and know exactly what's been going on with the call and the previous calls and the customer itself. The application itself, the solution itself, has its own client, but again, to make things easier and to obviously save on the desktop space, there's also the ability to actually integrate the agent's desktop into Teams. So you have the Trustack Voice offering, obviously working with Teams. You've also now got our advanced call center application also working seamlessly with Teams as well. So what's different with Trustack Voice, Voice Plus, and Trustack UC compared with other vendors? Well, the main difference is the pricing model. As Paul mentioned, Trustack Voice, Voice Plus, and TSUC provide all of the expected common telephony features as standard across all users. These include, but are not limited to, voicemail, hunt groups, pickup groups, auto attendant, speed dials, cloud-based, a cloud phone book, which is a system-wide directory, paging groups. I skipped over call queues. That is our integrated basic call center functionality. So if you didn't want to go for the omni-channel option, you can go for one that's actually included with the system, which is the actual call queue. So it will play comfort messages to callers, it will play positioning in queue, and it will give you a very powerful but basic call center functionality. Paul mentioned bundled minutes, included minutes. Slight typo there. It should be 01, 02, and mobile numbers. I don't know, 03 are free anyway. 0300s are free, but it's for 01, 02, and 01, 02, and 07 numbers. Now, as an example, if your organization has between 10 and 25 users, we include around about 1,250 inclusive minutes. On the other side, if you have 501 plus users, we increase that value to 35,000 inclusive minutes to 01, 02, and 07. Whereas most of our competitors have a tiered pricing model. This means that the more features you want, the higher the tier, and ultimately the higher end user cost. So with our platform, telephony platform, you only pay for what you need. So if you don't need Mobex, you don't pay for it. So Teams integration is an additional cost. Operator console, not everyone needs an operator console, but if you do need one, there's a monthly charge for that. We can also provide you video conferencing, which is basically is billed on a monthly basis, and you pay for the number of concurrent video conferences that you want. The call queue option, the call center option on our platform, also has a wallboard capability. So if you want a wallboard on a desktop or sort of displayed on a big screen, there is a cost for that. It's called a desktop widget wallboard. If you want one on the Trustack 400 handset, which also can take your video calls from your door intercom, but it also can display your wallboard functions. So it'd be quite useful for a supervisor, for example, where they can actually see in real time the stats of the group that they're supervising. Desk phones, again, you may not want a desk phone because you've gone for a Mobex client or the the Teams integration. If you want a desk phone, there's an additional cost for that, which is basically billed either on a recurring monthly status, or you can have it on an outright purchase. The SIP ATA, which I mentioned, is your SIP to analog converter to connect your analog devices to analog phone, fax, modem, PDQ. There's that can also be bought outright or on a monthly reoccurring cost. Call recording and call recording storage. So there's a monthly charge for the minutes you are recording and minutes you are storing. You can actually have just the recording on its own and have it sent by email to somewhere, or you can actually decide to store it on the system itself. The beauty of our product is that all moves, changes, and adds are included in the cost. There is no additional cost for any of those functions. So there's a list of the features. There'll be obviously copies of this presentation, but the slides, etc., you'll see them all there. It's quite a comprehensive and powerful list of features. So we now come towards the end of the presentation where we've got some frequently asked questions. So will call recording work with Microsoft Teams? And the simple answer is yes, it will. Can Dtmf codes be used to turn on or off or pause a recording using Microsoft Teams softphone? Again, yes, we have a dial code that will pause and start the actual recording, and you can do this through the dial pad on your Teams client. If I have a Teams desktop for desktop and mobile and a desk phone, which will ring when I'm called? Well, by default, they will all ring. Your desktop client will ring, your Teams desktop client will ring, your mobile client will ring, and your desk phone will ring. But the beauty of it is you can leave them all ringing simultaneously if you wish. However, you can go to each device and individually switch on or off the ringing feature. So if you want your desk phone to ring only, you could go into Teams Desktop and Teams Mobile and switch the call notification for those. If you want your phone to be silenced, you just go to the phone and you reduce its volume to 0. Can customers dial out on Microsoft Teams application? And the answer is yes. Now, when I went through the licenses required for telephony, I only mentioned a common area phone license and a phone system license. We do not require the calling plans that Microsoft sell. The reason for that is when you receive or make a call, the calls are handled by our SIP trunks in our data center. So all the calls come through our platform. Can I access voicemail from Teams, Microsoft Teams? Yes. We have a slight issue here because Microsoft Teams provide you a voicemail. Trustack hosted telephony provide you voicemail. When we set up your system and configure it, we will decide based on the information we gather from yourselves whether it's more appropriate to have the Trustack voicemail active or the Teams voicemail active. I would never recommend to have two because obviously most people can only handle one voicemail anyway. So what I would say is that we would decide which you would have, the Teams voicemail system enabled or the Trustack voicemail. And yes, you can access your voicemail from whichever one it is from Teams. Can I call international numbers from my phone or my Teams application? And the answer is by default, for safety and security purposes, we bar international and premium rate numbers. But this is just a setting. And if these are required, we could easily enable them on your system. And then can I forward my calls with Microsoft Teams? Yes, you can. The only stipulation is that if you're using the Trustack voicemail, you make sure that your forwarding occurs before the divert to voicemail occurs on the platform. So you can have forwarding and you can also have your Trustack voicemail running at the same time. And then finally, we just got a little glossary of terms, and that concludes the presentation.
Okay, thank you very much, Tom. I think that the resounding thing which has come through on this is that it's the integration with Microsoft Teams. That's the big bit of this, really. That was one of the things that was very important to us when we were picking the product. Microsoft is the 800-pound gorilla in the room. We don't want to compete with Teams. We've seen such a huge adoption of Teams in the last 12 months. I was talking to our distributor, West Coast, where we buy our 365 licensing from. And we've grown our Microsoft 365 business over the last 12 months by 55% month on month. So it's a huge increase, and everyone's using Teams for collaboration internally, etc. We just thought, you know what? If we're going to pick a phone system, a unified comms system, it's got to integrate with Teams, because we did look at a few which had almost like competitive ways of working. But the reality is, Teams is here to stay. It works well, but it has its shortcomings. It isn't a fully fledged phone system. It needs this kind of attachment onto it from a fully fledged unified comms point of view. So the two things together make it work, but the user experience, and it's quite difficult to get this across on a call like this. It really just looks like you're using Teams, but under the scenes, under the covers, there is another system that's working with Teams to provide that fully fledged telephony experience, if that makes sense. But as with all of these lunch and learns, the call to action is really if you want to discover something a little bit further with us and get into the weeds, that's what these are for. If we've piqued your interest, if you want to get more out of Teams, if you're looking at replacing your phone system, we want to talk to you. It's an important part of our business, and like Paul said, we've been almost selling unified comms by stealth for the last 10 years, and we don't want to do that. Since we did the merge of the three businesses back in September 2019, 2 years ago, one of the reasons why we relaunched all three businesses was to give us a fresh start. And Trustack is a general IT reseller now. We do, much more than the three companies did individually before, but we still have a lot of specialization. So it's not like, Tom's one of our unified comms consultants. It's not like Tom would ever install, firewalls or switches. We still keep that competency-based approach when it comes to, what we do. So we are a generalist. We do more things than we used to, but we still have the specialist people within those generalisms to support them. The same goes for the support side of the business as well. So, once something's in and running, we have dedicated people in the support team who are competent around unified comms or networking or virtual infrastructure. So that's still an ethos which we've carried through. So I'm conscious that some of you might not even have had any lunch whilst you've been sitting here. You might have waited. So I'm not going to keep you any longer. We will send this recording out so you can look at it at your leisure. But like the slide says there, so the next step is really, if you're interested and you want to talk to us, then we'd be delighted to do so. So thanks again. Enjoy the rest of the week, and we'll keep you posted for the next Lunch and Learn. Thanks now. Bye.
Bye.